In New York, under the blinding lights of the United Nations General Assembly, cameras flash, translators whisper, and the hum of political theater fills the hall. But as U.S. President Joe Biden prepares to unveil a $6 billion African Partnership aid package, one leader sits with arms crossed, eyes steady, Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. The room, already tense, falls into uneasy silence as murmurs ripple through the African delegations. Traoré's delegation has already made it clear behind closed doors, Africa is not for sale. The proposal, drafted in Washington over months of negotiation, promises infrastructure investments, renewable energy funding, and development loans. But buried deep within its clauses lie conditions: oversight rights for U.S. corporations, mineral exploration partnerships, and security cooperation mandates. It's aid wrapped in the language of generosity, but underneath it, Africa sees something older. The same old deal dressed in modern diplomacy. As Biden stands at the podium, his tone is firm yet measured. This is not charity, he says. This is partnership. A partnership that ensures stability, accountability, and growth for the African continent and for the global community. His words echo through the chamber. Applause fills the hall, but not from everyone. Traoré remains motionless. His eyes meet Biden's for a fraction of a second, and the message is unmistakable. Burkina Faso is not buying this. Across Africa, leaders exchange glances. From Mali to Niger, from Guinea to Chad, nations once dependent on Western support now whisper of independence, self-reliance, and control over their resources. The tide has shifted, and Traoré has become its loudest voice. His stance has turned him into both a symbol and a target, admired by some, condemned by others. Behind the scenes, the U.S. delegation is uneasy. Advisors huddle in whispers, glancing at their phones as early reports hit social media. Burkina Faso to reject U.S. aid deal. Hashtag surge. Yes, Africa not for sale. Traore speaks. New Africa rising. Within hours, news networks begin spinning the narrative. Some call Traoré reckless. Others call him fearless. Inside the African bloc, pressure builds. Several smaller nations, heavily reliant on U.S. funding, fear retaliation. American diplomats quietly remind them of trade cooperation, security support, and humanitarian assistance. But Traoré, speaking to his delegation later that night, is blunt. If aid means surrender, then we don't need it. If partnership means ownership, then we reject it. His words spread like wildfire. By morning, a storm has begun. The State Department issues a statement reaffirming America's commitment to African progress, carefully avoiding Traoré's name. But the subtext is clear. Washington will not tolerate defiance. In Ouagadougou, however, the reaction is electric. Crowds fill the streets, waving Burkina Faso's red, green, gold flags, chanting, "Notre dignité n'est pas à vendre." Our dignity is not for sale. Drone footage captures thousands gathered at the Place de la Nation, holding banners with bold words, "No aid, no chains, Africa first, we decide our future." The images flood international media. Some Western anchors call it anti-American populism. African youth call it a new dawn. As the U.S. delegation scrambles to contain diplomatic fallout, French officials watch with mixed feelings. Paris, still nursing the wounds of its ejection from Sahel nations, sees opportunity or chaos. Emmanuel Macron, in a late-night press briefing, remarks, "Africa deserves true partnerships, not conditional handouts." But to African ears, his words ring hollow. After decades of resource extraction under French development programs, few are buying Macron's sudden empathy. In Washington, senior policymakers convene in the Situation Room. Intelligence briefings warn that African nations could rally behind Traoré's defiance, forming a new economic front rejecting Western aid altogether. A Pentagon advisor speaks up. If this becomes a trend, we lose not just influence, we lose access. And there it is. The real issue. Access. Access to Africa's cobalt. Gold, uranium, lithium, the resources that power Western industries and military technologies. The $6 billion offer wasn't merely about aid, it was about maintaining a foothold in the continent's future. Meanwhile, Traoré prepares his own address. His communications team, young and fiercely patriotic, gathers footage from the protests, editing them into a fiery montage set to traditional Burkina drums. The video ends with a message. We are not beggars. We are builders. Within hours, it trends across African social media. The next morning, as he walks into the UN General Assembly chamber, journalists swarm him with questions. Will Burkina Faso accept any form of U.S. aid? Do you fear sanctions? Isn't this move isolating your country? Traoré doesn't stop walking. But his response, brief, calm, sharp, echoes worldwide. If independence is isolation, then we welcome it. The hall grows quiet as he approaches the podium. The backdrop shows the flags of all nations. Cameras zoom in. The crowd waits. His speech, briefed by Western analysts as confrontational, begins with a line that will go down in history. Africa has received aid for 60 years, and yet we remain poor. Maybe it's not the aid that's the problem. Maybe it's the hands that give it. A murmur ripples across the assembly. Western diplomats shift uncomfortably. Some African delegates nod subtly. He continues, we are told we need help, but help that demands obedience is not help. It is control. We are told to accept billions while our gold, our oil, our land flow outward. So I ask, who is truly helping whom? The translation booths stutter, scrambling to keep up with his pace. The hall is split between applause and silence. Cameras flash. Biden watches from his seat, expression unreadable. The speech is fiery but composed, defiant yet articulate. It's not the voice of rebellion. It's the voice of ownership. Afterward, corridors buzz with speculation. Will the U.S. respond with sanctions? Will France push back? Will the African Union intervene? But on social media, one clip dominates, Traoré saying, Africa is not for sale. Tens of millions of views. Tens of millions of voices echoing the same phrase. In the days following, African analysts debate strategy. Should nations like Mali, Niger, and Guinea align openly with Traoré's defiance? Or should they wait and see how Washington reacts? But the momentum is already unstoppable. In Bamako, Niamey, and Conakry, youth groups organize marches of solidarity. The chants are the same. No aid, no chains. By the end of the week, at least 7 African governments released joint statements calling for unconditional partnerships and non-interference in internal affairs. That diplomatic phrasing, for those who read between the lines, means one thing. They're siding with Traoré. In Washington, media commentators warn of a new African Cold War. On one side, nations asserting sovereignty. On the other, the West struggling to maintain influence. China and Russia quietly issue statements praising Africa's right to self-determination, fueling the perception that global power lines are being redrawn, not with bullets, but with words. And as Traoré returns to his hotel suite overlooking the Hudson River, his phone buzzes with a message from an aide. Sir, the White House has requested a closed-door meeting tomorrow morning. He glances at the skyline, then replies, Tell them I'll be there, but I won't change my message. The next morning, black SUVs pull up to the U.S. mission headquarters. Inside, Biden's advisors are already divided. Some argue to salvage the partnership through negotiation. Others suggest strategic consequences. As Traoré walks in, wearing his signature red beret and simple brown uniform, the atmosphere thickens with tension. A senior U.S. diplomat extends his hand. Mr. President, we hope to find common ground. Traoré nods but doesn't smile. Common ground, he replies, cannot be built on unequal terms. And as the lights dim in New York, capitals across the globe scramble to answer the question echoing through every newsroom. Embassy and boardroom, who will back down first, the United States or the new Africa? And as Traoré walks away from Washington's billions, the world holds its breath. What happens next could redefine power itself.